Hello everyone, welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan and thank you so much for coming to my channel. I am overjoyed to be able to share with you a wonderful phenomenon that occurs from time to time in all healthy planted aquariums, and that is the occurrence of flowers. The mystifying, beautiful, alluring, enigmatic flowers in our aquariums. Here you see 3 blooms, or soon to be blooms, from my Anubias plant. Very common aquarium plant. Maybe that's the Barteri. Not sure exactly the species of Anubias, but really couldn't be more common. So what's less common is when you see it flowering. It's not hard to achieve. It's really up to the plant. You provide it the right conditions and environment, and some of that's left to Mother Nature, but good light, meet the plant's needs on a fundamental level, and you're apt to get some flowers just like these 3. I can't wait to see the one that has breached the surface, the one bloom, unopened bloom. What do we call a bloom when it's unopened? The name escapes me. I know there is one, but it occurs under and over the water in much the same way, at least with this species. It's going to be white flower. It won't last very long, which is the ephemeral beauty of all flowers. They are striking, but they also are very temporary. But I have a sequence of them, so whichever one opens first, maybe it's going to be that middle one. There will be 2 more. But as my title indicated, there are more flowers in this aquarium. Just moving right down to the left here on this Bucephalandra, you see 2 glorious white flowers. One already opening, the other on the precipice of opening, on those firm, erect, and very apparent stems or stalks. Super pumped to see that. And the leaves and the color of the plant in general, fabulous as well. Not sure the species of Bucephalandra here, very common, probably a Kadang variety, maybe the Godzilla. Feel free to help me out in all things. Whenever I'm filming a video, I often misspeak, or I say something that's not quite right. I know what I'm talking about, but filming in real time, you know, it's hard. It's a discipline, and many of us, myself included, are not necessarily fabulous at it. So the joy of YouTube is that we're able to share and help each other out. So if you know what the name of an unopened flower bloom is, by all means tell me. And I'm just moving around from a different vantage point. Try to get the delineations on that particular flower, but it's so white, the camera is struggling amidst the colorful, panoply of other fish. It's having a hard time deciding what to focus on. So right there, it just looks like a white blur, but you get it, you know what I'm talking about in terms of its potential, what it will look like when it does open. Very similar in many ways to the Anubias. The flower is going to be white. They're both going to be very temporary, and I have more than one for each plant. There very well may be other blooms I think there's one right there. Actually, that's a curled leaf. A lot of times when new growth, especially with Anubias, when it's happening, it can resemble the bloom as well, but those are all just observations, have no distinct role or purpose in this discussion. So, what do we make of flowers in our aquarium? What does it mean? What does it signify? Why do they do it? I'm pretty certain flowers do not serve the same role in aquatic plants as they do in terrestrial plants. I know none of these fish are going to be attracted to the flower like a honeybee in a terrestrial plant and then take the pollen and move it elsewhere to create new life. I'm 99.5% certain that's absolutely not going to happen. So my question, I could put it out there, does anybody know what the role of a flower is in the ecosystem of our aquarium, or even in its natural state in the wild? Some plants, some aquatic plants, when their water source is running low, in the Amazon during the dry season, or in more arid climates when the water dries up, a plant knows it's time to hustle, get going, make new life happen, and then flowers will erupt. After the rains of spring, I remember in California, all the wildflowers would bloom, and it was a temporary phenomenon, and one that people reveled in and would come from miles around to take their selfies amidst the extravagant but temporary bloom of all these wildflowers. But the wildflowers knew that their time on planet Earth was limited, and so they needed to start the propagation cycle. I don't think that that's what any of this is about. The conditions in this aquarium remain constant, so there's no negative catalyst to why these blooms are occurring. I will tell you, I think they're, a wonderful, unexpected, at least it always feels unexpected, joy to see it when it happens. And I hope you people out there who keep planted aquariums have experienced or will experience the same ode to joy as I am here. As we look at the neighboring plants around it, you see the Ludwigia repens with its fabulous maroon color, both underwater and this particular specimen reaching the surface. You see my pothos, that a completely immersed plant, only its roots in that acrylic plant holder that I found on Etsy or eBay. Many of you do this in your aquariums, and if I'm not mistaken, pothos has a potential to bloom as well. Certain kinds, perhaps not this one, this common pothos. Actually, as we're on the topic, a lot of aquatic plants have a potential to bloom, not always underwater, but certainly when they breach the surface. My experience with Bacopa, this lovely set of stalked plants here, will fairly rapidly reach the top of this water and continue to grow out, and then you might see the lovely blue or white flowers that come from that plant. We've talked about, and I'm showing you Anubias and Bucephalandra, definitely will happen with those species. and even some of your more grass-like plants. Now this is Blixa japonica. I don't know that it has a flower, but certain other grasses absolutely do. The tiger lotus here, and lilies do have flowers. Maybe not this variety, not the common red tiger lotus or dwarf tiger lily that we have in all of our aquariums, the most commonly found. And there are some variants within those two. I'm not sure which ones flower and which ones don't, but their red leaves, from an aesthetic perspective, seem like flowers. That being my feature plant, it occupies its space the way I might set a flowering plant up in the center of a grouping of green plants to create that, beauty, that joy that flowers bring. I wish I were as delighted with the left-hand side of this aquarium. I pulled out a bunch of Rotala some time ago because it would get really nice at the top and very compromised at the bottom, which, because this is a tall aquarium, that problem is amplified. There's just more real estate that the plant has to utilize in order to get to the light source. And many stems suffer the consequences down at the bottom. Certainly the Rotala I had in here did. So I have three stems, I should say, of mermaid weed. This wonderful plant with its saw or shark tooth like leaves. And as it gets closer to the surface, it too can develop a red, purpley color, and that's what I'm hoping for. And it's very distinct and different from the repens, at least in terms of the leaf structure. So I'm excited to see what that combination of leaves and color will look like. But mermaid weed, it takes a long time to get to grow, period, which is a blessing and a curse. You certainly don't have to get in there and trim it. Like, for example, with this repens, which I'm constantly pulling these plants out, cutting this scraggly bottom and just planting the wonderful top 6 inches. Every couple of weeks I do that. When you have CO2 and a seasoned aquarium with a great light and substrate, your plants, my plants, are growing exponentially fast. Because I take care of them. I'm willing to do the work in order to, achieve intense, vibrant, and rapid plant growth. And it is work, but it's a labor of love. So when I do see these flowers, it's like a payoff, like a reward for the labors of love that we put into this hobby, into our aquariums, into our planted tanks. And flowers are like a gift back, saying thank you, Stefan, for taking good care of us. Here's your present. Flowers, boom, 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 underwater fireworks. I would love to know exactly what the role, in terms of how the ecosystem operates, what the role of an underwater flower is. Honestly, I don't know. I remember Googling that very question, but I never got a distinct answer. At least I don't recall what the answer was. I just got a lot of real-time feeling discussion, much the way I'm doing it now, but never a distinct answer. We all know fish aren't going to alight upon the blooms like a bee and spread the pollen elsewhere. Christ, I don't even know if there is pollen in aquatic plants, but I know most aquatic plants, when they are grown immersed out of water, they do flower, and those flowers very much attract insects and play a role in propagation of the plant. But in this consistent underwater environment, I'm not sure what they're doing, but I'm so happy that they're doing it. As an overview, since we're on this aquarium, this is Cypress halferi, a super, and I hope I got that name right. I don't know why this plant isn't more abundant as a option for Vallisneria. It's just as beautiful, yet it doesn't spread and take over in the same way as Vallisneria does. I talked about the Ludwigia repens and how I have to maintain it. Very common aquarium plant. With CO2 and good light, it gets redder and redder potentially. But even without, you can get good results. The dwarf tiger lotus, red tiger lotus, dwarf tiger lily. There's a handful of species within those two groups. And they function, or grow, I should say, similarly. One is bigger than the other, and there's even one that readily sends out runners and almost creates a carpet, which is, really cool when you think about it. Having a tiger lotus become that significant as opposed to just a feature plant. I have a hodgepodge of smaller plants in the foreground, the Blixa japonica. This is not a small plant, and I'm violating aquascaping rules by putting Bacopa right up front like that. I love this plant because it stays just as beautiful at the very bottom as it does at the very top, and you can see why I would appreciate that in a tall aquarium. I've already discussed the problems I have with Rotala and Ludwigia, and as far as the bottom of those plants go. I have a whole bunch of different fish in here, in case you haven't noticed. All nano species. The black phantom tetra, that one with a red finish to it. There you see an Amano shrimp, a ginormous one. The rummy nose rasbora, or Sabwa resplendens, ember tetras, and of course the SB rasbora or lamb chop rasbora. For my money, the more lovely, albeit smaller cousin of the harlequin rasbora. And there are others. Panda coriadora. I saw one tooling around down here. There's a whole bunch of them. You can see them in the back there. I'm surprised, well, maybe not so surprised, there's one there, that they're not all up front, but they can be a little shy when their master is right before them with a camera. There's the overall wide shot of this tank. If you have any questions or want to know more about it, by all means hit me up. I promise I'll answer. And I beg your pardon for my voice breaking up a little bit. It's not that I'm filled with emotion because of the flowers. I am, but not to that extent. It's because I have a dry mouth, and could and will take a long and deserved drink of my Diet Coke as soon as I finish, which is right now. All right, everybody. Always keep your hands in the tank, albeit carefully, and ciao for now.